Hey there, it's Johanna, and today let's talk about recognizing our own voices, our own thoughts and opinions and wants and all of that. So I remember this day, I remember sitting just like slouched down in the back seat of my mom's car. I had traveled with her to visit one of my sisters, and we'd been having a really good morning. And then it was time to decide where to eat lunch. And the car was like pretty much silent, other than there was rain just pouring down outside and traffic going by. And then every so often there would be a sigh like, I don't know, they all look good. What do you want? And yeah, it was not going well. It's not that any of us were picky or pushy. I think we all would have been very glad to have someone just tell us what we should do. And I was sitting back there just like scrolling through glowing review after glowing review on my phone, looking for like the right answer, like where should we eat lunch? And I like my stomach was kind of in knots. It seemed so silly. It's such a insignificant choice that doesn't really matter. But it felt like I had to, like there wasn't a right answer and I had to figure it out. And if I got it wrong and someone didn't like their lunch, well, that would be my fault. So of course I want someone else to make the choice. And you know, I was getting very frustrated where every single one of us in the car, I just wanted someone to make a choice. I was pretty annoyed with myself for not being able to just do it. And I also felt kind of worried because, like, really, where you're going to eat lunch, it's not that big of a deal. But if I was having that hard of a time, trying to decide between, like, stir-frying gyros, what about when there was a decision that, like, actually mattered or had really lasting consequences? And, you know, this is not an isolated incident. It's kind of a pattern that has shown up in my life. And, you know, for many, many years, I would often look to others to tell me what to do, what to say, what to think, what to decide. And I would kind of try and deflect any decisions to other people. And I still do this sometimes, but it's something I'm working on, being able to both to actually listen and check in with myself like, hey, what do I really want here? And then being able to say that. So it's definitely a process, lots of practice. It's not always very comfortable. But there are some things that have been helpful for me along the way. So I will share some of them today and see, you know, if you recognize yourself in this story, maybe there's something that can help you too. So the first thing I'll say, and this one gets said quite a bit, I feel like, but it's true. Practice in the small things. You know, those decisions that I find so frustrating, like, what do I want to eat? What movie should we watch? What should I wear? Those types of things. It can actually be a great place to just practice checking in for a preference and making a choice and sharing that choice in some way. And sometimes with things like that, there's so many things that sound good that it is really hard for me to like discern a preference. So it can also be a way to practice just choosing something just to get more comfortable with doing that, and where if you end up wishing you'd made another choice, it's not that big of a deal. So the second thing I would say is listen for what doesn't sound like you. And I don't know if this ever happens to you, but sometimes when I'm talking, I'll notice that like a word or a phrase just doesn't sit quite right with me. It doesn't quite feel like me. And often it's, maybe something I picked up from listening to other people talk. And sometimes that is, sometimes it's just, oh, I haven't said that out loud before. So it just felt kind of strange the first time it came out of my mouth. And sometimes it's the idea behind what I was saying fits, but the words, I just need to choose words that feel like a better fit for me. But sometimes it's also like, oh, I thought this was what I thought, but now I'm not so sure. It didn't feel quite right when I said it. Regardless, it can be just a good chance to check in with ourselves and see, like, oh, what's going on here? What do I want to say that will feel maybe a little more like me? And kind of along with that, pay attention to your silence. I am a very quiet person, and I pretty regularly will find myself just kind of sitting and listening to other people talk. And I get so caught up in just like listening and thinking about what they're saying that I sometimes forget to contribute to the conversation. But sometimes I am quiet because I don't really know what I think. So I don't know what I want to say. And sometimes I keep my mouth shut because, yeah, I don't agree, but I don't want them to know that. So our silences can also be just a good clue, a good nudge to kind of check in with ourselves and see what's going on. Why am I maybe being a little more quiet in this area? Doesn't necessarily mean anything's wrong, but a good chance to check. And something that can be really helpful with all of these is to check in with your body. We can get so many thoughts going on in our minds, and it can be hard to kind of pin them down sometimes. But if we check in with our body, that can give us a lot of information about how we're actually feeling in that moment. Like, if I'm, for example, quiet during a group conversation and I'm feeling just like really tense and maybe small and kind of a little shaky, that might tell me something. But if I'm being really quiet in a conversation, but I'm just feeling kind of relaxed and content, that might tell me something too. And also our bodies, like we can check in with them in the moment like that. And also sometimes when we're trying to like see what we really think or make a decision, it can be helpful to try and like think about like where does truth live in my body and really connect with that. Try and connect with that part of ourselves, and then maybe ask ourselves some questions and just see how our body responds. Something you might want to give a try. So let's see. And that, yeah, I think I'm maybe up to 5 now. I've kind of lost count. But another thing, if you want to more actively like practice connecting with your own thoughts and figuring out your own opinions, try debating like a controversial question. And this can be on your own. If you want to do it with other people, go for it. But you could do this just on your own. There's so many questions and arguments and debates out there. And those can bring up a lot of voices. The loudest are not always the wisest, but it can make it hard with all the different voices to like really hear our own. So this can be a great chance to practice, like, pick a topic and try thinking through arguments like for or against, and then start forming an opinion in your own words, and it doesn't matter if your opinion matches anyone else's, and you don't have to share it unless you want to. This doesn't have to be about like choosing a side or winning an argument unless you want it to be. And while you're doing that, I'd invite you to also pay attention to what questions you still have as you're forming your opinion. And that brings me to the last point I will talk about today. It's okay to not know. Like when we are thinking about like, oh, yes, learn to recognize my own voice. It can sometimes start to feel like, and then I will always know what I think. I will always have a decision and a definite answer. And that's a lot of pressure and not always necessarily the case. Sometimes our voice might be the quiet one that's just asking some questions or trying to make some space for a little like mystery or nuance or just the possibility that there's more to this than we understand yet. And yeah, we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves to, if we, it's one thing, like I talked about earlier, to practice just kind of giving a preference on low stakes things. But if we're like demanding that we always know exactly what we think and always have an answer when we haven't had, when we don't know, that can actually be a way that we kind of reinforce that pattern of ignoring or shutting down the parts of us that still have questions or concerns. So, sometimes we won't know. Some questions don't have clear-cut answers. And for me, part of this process of learning to recognize my voice is, learning more about what I think, learning to recognize that and to speak up and share it more often. But it also includes, trusting that sometimes I won't know, or I will change my mind, or that I need more space to think through things. So today, I'm curious for you. Are there particular areas where you really struggle to recognize your voice or to use it? And is there anything that I mentioned today that you want to try? Or is there anything you would add to the list to help all of us in this? All right. I'll be back with more soon. In the meantime, remember, you can trust yourself.